Hi everyone, Bimmer Clubsport here. Yes, another video, finally. Well, today we're going to be carrying out a job on this car, which is an oil change. Got the oil right down here, and this cat has decided it's going to join us today. Come on. I don't know, it's a stray cat. It comes to me from time to time to have a look round. Okay, so me and the cat are going to do an oil change on the car, but also oil filter housing gasket and oil VANOS line change. It may be that the whole oil housing gasket is leaking, I don't know. There is oil in and around that bottom area, but I'm not quite sure whether it's leaking or not from there, but I'm guessing it is. But I'm changing it anyway as a matter of preventative maintenance. Also the oil VANOS line as well. And who knows, maybe doing that will help eliminate the lifter tick to help oil flow through. Who knows, maybe the oil's not flowing through as well. I don't know, we'll see. But the car is now 20 years old. It was built in July 2002. It is now July 2022, and as a 20-year-old car, I think she's looking not too bad. She's not too shabby for 20 years old. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to open the garage door. We're going to turn on the engine, let it run for 5 minutes. I'm going to put the kettle on, and while the car is running, warming up the oil, once that's done, when the car is done warming up the oil, we'll pop the jack underneath, jack it up, put it on some axle stands and drain the oil out. I would prefer to do it with the car completely level, but you know, I don't have this luxury. What I've done already is I've had the jack underneath this front point, lifted that up, got underneath the car and taken off the engine cover at the bottom. This is the Clubsport one. It's actually different from the standard 330, and as you can see on the hatch as well, there's oil there. That might be dripping off the drain bolt, although I don't think so. I think what I'm hoping is happening is that the oil that's at the bottom of the car, it's also on the, I think it's an AC line underneath there, I'm not sure. But there's some oil at the front here. So if it is coming from the oil filter housing gasket, it could be that it's dripping down and then getting pushed back, and that's why it's all over the sump, maybe. And then we have some gunk here, which I'm going to use to clean all the underside of the engine and anywhere around the oil filter housing when it's off, in order to it'd be better with the bonnet open, wouldn't it, really? Let's get the bonnet open. Right, let me just get in and pull that. Doing this with one hand. Right. Let me see if I can show you the oil using the camera down here. I'm going to put the light on. There we go. Now you can see, hold on, I'm trying to focus it. Great, accessibility options, go away. Okay, so on that bottom black bar you can see oil, also up here. Okay, just behind where the belt is. So for me, I think all that's coming from the oil filter housing gasket. I think it's oil. Yes, I'm hoping it's all oil. If not, then it might be power steering fluid, but I don't know. We'll soon find out. But all this is going to have to come out. We're going to have to remove all of this up to the math. Get this out the way. Alternator has to come out. Tensioner has to come off. Belts have to come off. Fan has to come out. And then we're going to get to this. And if you want to remove this from the car, you're going to have to undo the power steering pump as well and take that off, or at least let it hang, and then take this off. I'm not intending to take it off. I'm just intending to pull it to the side and change the gasket that way. So parts wise, let me just show you. We have 4 crush washers. Okay, we need those. These are all BMW parts. And the 4 crush washers, we've got 2 of them to go on this side of the old VANOS line, 1 at the top, the line, 1 at the bottom. And then we've got 1 to go on the other side of this oil line, which goes into the back of this. So I'm replacing this because as I've got this off, why not? So I've got the replacement cable here. That's this one. It's by Melee, and there's the part number, and it's got nice rubber caps on the end there as well to protect it. You're back? Yeah, you're back. So that's ready to go on along with the crush washers, and of course the gasket. Now I bought this gasket maybe a couple of years ago, just haven't got the job done yet. It hasn't come out of the wrapper. Oil filter housing gasket. So let's get on with it. First we need to drain the oil, but I want the car warmed up first. Obviously you have to drain the oil before you take this off. I want to get this loosened as well, so that, you know, while the oil is draining, or after the oil's drained for a little while, we're going to start undoing this and make sure that, you know, it's not causing any vacuum or anything that's stopping the oil getting through or flowing out. Anyway, enough yap, let's go. Okay, so finally got the car jacked up. I've put some polythene down to protect the floor. But yeah, it was a nightmare to get it jacked up, but it's on the axle stands, which means the car's not perfectly level, but it's going to have to do. We've got some good drips going on there, by the looks of things. So I'm going to let this thoroughly drain. What I had to do, because the car is so low, even my low profile jack doesn't get underneath the car without scraping the top of this bumper. So I had to jack it up at the side there until the wheel was off the ground, put a plank of wood under the wheel, bring the car down, and then bring the jack to the front so that the jack could clear the car, and jack it up on this point here. Now I'm not sure whether you're supposed to jack it up on this point, but it's the only way I know of, unless you guys know another way. This is the only place I know to jack the car up where the whole front can come up in one go. And it is on the subframe. It makes this a mess, it crumples this up, but hey, it is what it is. Alright, so we're going to let the oil drain into there, and I'll check it, make sure there's no particles in there that shouldn't be there. So what I'm going to do now is while it's draining, I'm going to get the 36mm and we're going to take this off. Right, so we have this, and actually I don't think that's the right size for what I need. Let me get my other ratchet. Oh no, it is right, sorry. That's what happens when you start a job at 7:30 in the morning. Your brain's out of phase. Okay, I'm going to need 2 hands for this. See you later. Okay, so now I have it. So I need a plastic bag really to put this in. The other thing I do have is this. 4 washers or seals, 4 O-ring seals. Part number is this one. Now you get 2 in a pack, I think, but I ordered 4. And if you don't know, I'll show you what those are for in just a moment. I should have got some plastic. I'll be back. Right, so I got a plastic bag to put this in, just to let it drip into. I think there's a K&N oil filter in there. That's going to go. I'll be replacing that with the MAN oil filter, which is the proper OEM one. So this car's done around, I would say, 4,500 miles since the last oil change. And as you can see, there's oil at the bottom there. And that's what I wanted to drain out, really. Okay, I'm gonna transfer this into the bag. Again, it's something I need both hands for. Alright, so here is the oil cap. So we're going to be replacing this O-ring here. The oil filter brings that. And then I bought the 2 rings there, which it doesn't want to focus on. There. So those 2 little O-rings are going to get replaced. I've never replaced them since all the oil changes I've done, so it only feels right to do it. Okay. Okay, so here's a couple of tools I think we're going to need. This, which has just got a point on it, which I'm going to need for the seals, I think. And then we're going to need this right now. And also a T25 Torx to get this off, to get the fan out. First thing then is this, which we're going to use to pull these out. I might as well do this part while the oil is still dripping away. Oh, one more. 2 more. 2 more, sorry. Again, so much easier with one hand. Yep. Okay, so that gets rid of this bit, and then we're going to need 2 10mm for here, and these clips up here. Going to leave the MAF sensor in, so we got a clip here. Hope you can see that. Let me just put some light on the subject. We have a clip right there, one on the other side, right there, 2 10mm, and out comes the airbox. So I'm going to do that. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so that is the air filter removed. That gives us good access here to the alternator. But now we've got to get to the belts. So I'm going to use the T25 Torx in here. All my Torxes got rusty one day. I don't know why. No idea. One day they just all got rusty, and I guess some moisture got in there. So if you have an automatic instead of a manual car, you're going to have a different fan. The manuals have got the electric fan, and the automatics have got the viscous. So you're going to need a tool that's going to remove the fan blades out of the car first, before you can get the housing out. Thankfully I don't need that. It's a lot easier here. So on this side it's just another pop thing, which man, this looks a tricky one. Okay, again, 2 hands needed. Oh no, here we go, we got it. Let me see if I can pop that out with my fingers now. No. Okay, I think that's popped out far enough. So then we have to unplug this. Do I have to unplug that? Yeah. So this is the sniffer. That's got to come out. Again, I need 2 hands. I'm going to unplug this cable and this cable, and then that's it. I'll be back. Okay, done. So all you have to do with this one is just squeeze these in together. That'll pull out, and then with this one you just squeeze that down and that'll pull out of there. Move them out of the way. Great, I got a nice little cable in the way. Anyway, so the whole fan now will just pull out, but again, 2 hands required. I'll be back. Okay, that's done. Pulled out nice and easy, and now we get access to the belts, which we're going to have to take out. So, take off. So we need to get to the tensioners and move them across. 16mm for 2 of these, and if you need to take a photograph of your belt pattern, then do that, otherwise you can consult the internet. But you can see the first belt just loops across the top here, all the way across the top, and then it goes underneath that tensioner. The other belt goes around the top of the alternator. You can just see there, sorry if it blurs, I can't help it. It goes around the top of this pulley, and then it goes in. Let me see if I can shine some light here. Goes in and underneath this, it goes around, yeah, around the tensioner, and then it goes around this back pulley here and around this back pulley there, which is the power steering, and that's it. So I'm going to show you how to get those off in just a second. Okay, so you're going to need a 16mm and a breaker bar, and if you might need some assistance on this, I don't know, but you see this bottom tensioner down here. Let me see if I can locate it. Down here where my finger is, sorry I can't put light on this, but let me take you down. There's the tensioner, and that is the bolt you're going to go for. That gets the first belt off. And then you have the second tensioner, which is here. I'm going to have to manually focus with this stupid thing, aren't I? It won't. So you're going to need to get the inner belt off. This tensioner has a bolt which is just above it. I'm trying to locate it for you. There it is. This one. And there's the tensioner. So just above. And you want to put the 16 on there, pull backwards, which will loosen the, or pull, actually no, not backwards, clockwise. Pull it in a clockwise direction and just take the belts off. Again, make sure you've got the belt position noted. And also, the belts do go on a certain way. So there may be a notification on your belt to tell you which way to put it, inside, outside, whatever. Make sure you've got that noted. And if you don't, put the belts down on the floor in the way they came off. Okay, right. Okay, next up, two bolts here. One there, one down the back. 13mm. It's going to take this off, and all we're going to do is just unloosen it and then just We're going to loosen it and then just move it out of the way over to here, just so it's out the way. Being careful not to spill anything, so make sure your top's on tight. Okay, that's out the way. Moved it over, made sure that this tube was out of the way of the alternator, because we're going to need to take this bolt off and this clip off. And it sat here, and the two bolts that went in there are just up there. Right, next thing is we're going to start looking at removing the alternator. Before you do that, disconnect your battery, because you're going to be messing here with the positive terminal on the alternator, and if you touch that with the ground, you will short out your battery, and you don't want to do that. Disconnect it. Okay, so with the battery disconnected, both terminals, I'm going to pull this off. Again, 2 hands required. Basically, you're going to be pushing down on this clip, pull off, and then a 17mm spanner to undo this, and that's that. Okay, done. See you when it's done. Okay, next up for me then is 16mm bolt on the top of the alternator. There's also one at the bottom underneath the tensioner for me. What I don't know is if I'm going to have to remove the tensioner, and if I do, is that going to create a problem? Like, coolant isn't going to leak out, is it? So what I've done is I've taken the positive terminal off the back of the alternator, and I've taped it up with insulating tape. I did disconnect the battery, but still, yeah, I just did that as a matter of double safety. And I'm still figuring out why my phone doesn't focus. I'm told if you don't manual focus it, it should autofocus. As you can see, no chance. So I'm going to have to manual focus. And even then, wow. Can anyone recommend a good mobile phone that knows how to focus properly? Because this one's wacko. Let me get a light on the subject. Right, so there is the positive cable. Okay, this thing. And then we've got the cable off. So I'm going to undo this bolt now. Now, I don't know whether the alternator will come off here. If it doesn't, with the bottom bolt, we may have to put the bolt back in and then tap it forwards with a hammer back into the thing, because there's a sleeve inside which is stopping the alternator from coming out. Maybe depends. Now I think I can get the bottom alternator bolt without taking the tensioner off, or at least the wheel. If I can't, I'm going to have to look at taking that wheel off. But yeah, so for this I have a 16mm with a slightly long socket on there. If I need longer, I'll use longer. So once I've got the alternator off, I'll be back. Okay, so here's a problem I'm running into. You guys are probably going to run into as well. So far I've not been successful to get the alternator out. Top bolt is off and loose. As you can see, it's loose, but it won't come out the bottom, and that's because there's a sleeve, and I've tried hammering it twice and it still won't come out. So I'm going to give it another go. So basically the bolt has to go back in, and you have to screw it in a good fair way and then tap it with a hammer inwards, because there is a sleeve inside the thread which is overlapping the metal body. Finally Okay, and the reason, well, I don't know about the reason, but what I did was I just pushed the alternator back beyond this. Let me see. Why can't I find it with oh god. Right, I'm looking directly at it. Yeah, here. Sorry, I have to do this without the light. So here, where the bolt goes through and the top bolt goes through, here, I just made sure that they were separated, fully pulled back, and then I just jiggled and wiggled and wiggled and jiggled and wiggled and jiggled and jiggled. Now, the sleeve I'm talking about was this one. Right, now this pushes forward when you tighten the bolt, so you have to push it backwards. Because you can see there's a slight lip there, and that lip was what was stopping it going from over there, the bracket, but we've got it off now. And it looks like, you can see there's a lot of oil drippage down there. Let me see. I can't think how to best do the lighting on this, but if you look down there, that is all wet. The whole thing, everything up here is wet. Now what I'm hoping is that that's all wet from oil. I'm going to get a blue tissue on that and I'm going to wipe it and make sure it is oil, and I'm hoping that all that is coming from a dodgy gasket here, and that replacing the gasket will then stop all this leakage. So I'm going to want to, once I get this housing off, I'm going to want to clean up as much as possible. I don't know what that is. It looks like a piece of hay or straw or something. Alright, so on the back of the alternator there is a plastic tube which goes down to an intake at the bottom of the car. So I'm just struggling getting that off at the moment. Just going to pull that off. If you can see it back there. I'll try and get my light in somewhere. Yep, LucasArts Industrial Light and Magic here. But yeah, you can just see at the bottom there, there's a plastic tube. I'll show it to you when I get it off. Alright, so I'm going to pull the alternator out and then that's it. The only thing left to come off is the oil filter gasket. Right, so after a wipe down of some parts, I can confirm pretty much that my oil filter housing gasket does need replacing. And the way you can really tell, if I can get the phone in here, is these waffles, baffles, whatever you want to call them. Let me get this cable out of the way. You see how they're soaked? Well, that only comes from the oil filter housing gasket. If they're all wet, that's a good sign that it is this. So now we're going to get the 6 bolts off. We're going to get them off. I don't think they need to come off in sequence, but they do need to go back in sequence. And once again, it doesn't want to focus. So we're looking at, let me see if I can shine a, I wish I had a torch that could shine a light, balance somewhere. Alright, so anyway, never mind. So this one, I've lost the other one now. Where's the other one? I think we're going to have to take this off as well. So there are 6 bolts. I'm not really one for, but yeah, one inside that recess right there, one in the corner, one there, one here, and am I blind? You'll notice also there's a cable on the back here. electric cable, and also the VANOS line goes there. You can see right there that cable. That's the old VANOS line. That's going to be coming off so I can replace it. Where is the 6th bolt? What the hell? I could have sworn there was 6. Oh, there it is. Yeah, stupid. Yeah, recessed right back there. I don't know if you can see it. A lot of cable in the way. Yeah. It's just in the shadows. There it is. There it is. So, those 6 bolts off. If they need to come off in sequence, I'll let you know. I'm going to find out myself. I know you need to put them back on in sequence, but we'll do that as we do it. Now, there is this cable, which I might have to just take this off and move this out the way, because I don't want it to be in the way. Now, once this comes off, I'm going to need to cover the aperture. Once the gasket's off, I'm going to need to cover the aperture on this side and on the engine side. I want to cover it so nothing can fall inside, no dirt, and then we can maybe give this a clean. This is a big chunk of hardware. I'm hoping that it will come off to the side of the car without me having to remove this thing, the power steering pump. At least I think that's what it is, whatever the hell it is. Yeah. Alright, let's get to it. Okay, we got them all. I just needed a bit of a longer extension on this one, on that middle one, that was all. So, it looks like we can take this one out. Now, when you're taking these bolts out, make sure you know which one goes where, because when you're going to put it back together, top left needs to go back into top left, and bottom right to bottom right, middle left, they've all got to go back in the same way you took them out. Alright, so you can either get a piece of cardboard and put some holes in it and make a little, put some writing on it and make a note, or you can put them down somewhere in sequence, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to place them on the floor to the side in sequence. Is this the other one? Is it free? Yeah. Come on. There we go. Alright, let me take the ratchet off and do it like this. Okay, that's number 2. See, number 2 coming out there, it was a different length to the top one. The top left was longer than the top right. So now I'm going to do bottom left, and I'm hoping that when we take these out, that the whole thing, including the power steering pump, will just pivot out. I think I might need a magnet to get that one out. It is loose. Also, there's electric cable here, which I unplugged. Put that to the side. Yeah, these are all nice and loose now. Well, this looks like a job that surely needed doing. No doubt about that. I keep whacking into the tensioner there. Oh yeah, I did remove the top tensioner that was sitting by the sitting on this. I removed it just so it was out the way. I wasn't sure that it was going to interfere with anything. I don't think it does, but bear with me. Yeah, just as a matter of course, I took it off there. Magnets are handy. Okay, so we now have the two center bolts. It would help if I put it, oh, we need a bit more turning on this one. So this is good because it's going to get a new gasket, and it's going to get a new oil VANOS line. You know, if you're going to do this job, you might as well get the VANOS line, the VANOS oil line as well, because the only time you're going to be able to do this, the oil VANOS line, is when the oil filter housing is off the car. So it just makes perfect sense to do it. And as we put it all back together, I'll give you guys as many let me rephrase that sentence. When we put it all back together, anytime a bolt needs a specific torque, Newton meters of torque, I will let you know what that is. I've got a lot of them written down. On the ones that I don't, I'm just going to snug up nicely. Alrighty, that's it. So, question now is it going to come off? Well, it doesn't feel like it is. Oh, but it is. Okay. Well, something's holding it back. I don't think it's the oil line. Oh my God. What's holding this on? I hope somebody hasn't used any stupid sealant. No, it's off. It's on its way out. Okay. I'll be back. Yeah, okay, apologies there, the camera fell. It's very difficult in an enclosed space to do this. So, I can show you separation down there, but I'm going to remove the oil line here first. I think that's what's stopping it. So, this 19mm crush washer, oil line and another crush washer. And we're going to take that off, and then we're going to see if we can separate this. Okay, so I have a 19mm spanner and ratchet, so we're going to get that in here. I hate doing things with one hand, I really do. No, still a bit tight. So I don't think there's anything wrong with this line. I don't believe so, but I think it does make perfect sense to replace it. Come on. And that's on the floor. And we got the two crash washers, which we're going to replace along with the cable. And this goes down the back, and you can see it going in. Well, I can't really put my finger in there, can I? Here. That's the other side of it. I will try and be ambidextrous. It needs more light. But anyway, trust me, you'll see it. Just, you'll need to remove the other side if you're going to replace that. I would advise it. Alright, so once I've got this separated off the car, I'll come back and we'll take the gasket off. Alright, there it is. So you can see there's like a dowel on the top there. Let's see if I can point to it. I am the worst cameraman. That one, and one right at the bottom here. So when I shine a light on, you'll see at the bottom, and then at the top right there's a dowel where it interlocks. And you can see there's a lot of drippage there. That's just because of the oil that's dripped out when I've split these open. So I'm going to clean as much of that off as I can, but before I do that, I want to pack these holes so that no dirt gets in. So I'm going to wash my hands first, and then we're going to do that, and then we're going to get the gasket off. There she is, the famous gasket. Now, does mine match? It does. Right? It's a match. I wonder what it's like. Wow, it doesn't look like it's even forming a seal in some places, but maybe it is. Anyway, so we're going to give this a bit of a clean down, and then in here, I don't know what to do. That is filthy, but I don't really know what to do. I could brush it with gunk and then just, you know, hose it off. But if I'm going to use the hose, this and this needs to be completely waterproof. Like water can't get in here. That would be bad. Right now we want to protect it from dirt getting in. So we want to cover that up. And maybe I'll put a plastic bag over this side. And then maybe, I don't know what to do on this side. I don't know. And this cable, yeah, okay. I'm going to remove the oil line from this side now, if I can, now that this is loose, if it'll let me do it. If not, I don't know. I'm going to get the oil line removed anyway. Okay, so the oil line is now off and ready for the new one to go on. Now then, so I've stuffed a bit of stuff in there. I'm going to also protect this one, and I'm going to get a brush and some gunk and brush it all over here. And then I'm going to get a hose with a trigger gun and be very careful and water all this off. Now I've got to be careful not to get this wet. So I'm going to have to protect that somehow. And no water in there either. Do not want to mix oil and water. So the water flow is going to have to be very slow and easy. Also, the electrical contacts are going to be out the way or covered. So this is going to slow the job down, getting it all back together. But I'd rather clean this up while I've got the opportunity to do so. My only issue is that it's going to all drip on the floor. So what I'm going to do now is put the oil drain bolt back in the car, tighten it all up, waiting for the new oil to go in, and then I can put the polythene that I'm using to protect the floor underneath where all this is going to drip. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so here's the replacement oil filter, and there is the new crush washer which we're going to use on the oil drain plug. I've got my 17mm ready, torqued to 25 Newton meters for the drain bolt. Okay, that's it. Okay, so the oil drain plug is now on, and it is time to remove the old gasket. I'm just going to use a blade because I don't have a right-handed pick tool. This is going to be tricky. I know you probably can't see much, but also before putting the new one on, we need to get some fresh oil and coat it with fresh oil so it slips in there nicely. So this is so flat. Yeah, I'm gonna need to move the light, I think, into a different place, and that means you won't be able to see. So I'm gonna remove this and then I'll be back. Okie dokie, so I've cleaned the underside of the engine full of the oil, and I've done a bit on the top here, but I've had to do it dry, which means putting gunk on with a brush and then getting it off with a blue paper towel as opposed to using water. I didn't want to risk it. I put cling film on either side of this, but I didn't want to risk it anyway. So now I'm just going to get the oil filter housing gasket, get some fresh oil, put some oil around it, and then put it back in there. But before I do that, I want to clean off. You can see where this light is here. Hold on. I just want to clean off these black areas. Now ideally you want to be using like a plastic scraper, but I'm going to try with my finger and just try and get it off so that it's a nice flat surface. Okay, so finally got this on. Torqued the bolts up to 25 Newton meters. Little tip: make sure you have the oil line on the right way around. I didn't, but even if you don't, you can take it off while this is secured. Also, another tip is not to tighten it at the back. Don't tighten it at the back there. Put it on, keep it loose, and that allows the hose to be movable and flexible as you position this in place. If you tighten that hose up in the wrong place, you won't get the housing back on. So just make sure you put it on nice and loose so the hose, the oil VANOS line, can move around freely, and then this will go on, and then you can just pull this into place, and then you get the 19mm and you tighten up both ends. I don't know what the torque is on these, so I just tightened them pretty well. The one at the back's been tightened up like 4 times and unloosened 4 times. I had no choice. I wasn't getting the position right, so I'm not sure whether the crush washers will be okay or not. But if the worst comes to the worst, I can always, I can inspect this in a week's time, and if there's a leak anywhere near these washers on either side, there shouldn't be a problem on this side, but if there's anything on this side, I'll just get two more washers and I'll replace it. So yeah, these are all done. So now I'm just going to make sure that there's no foreign objects or anything in here that can cause any problems. There doesn't seem to be. Oh buddy, so now we're gonna, there's a cable that goes into here. Now you can't get them wrong So if it doesn't fit, well, it's the wrong one. There you go, that goes straight in. It's not like you can make a mistake with this. These are all different. Like all these connectors, this is a good thing with BMW. You can't fit that in there, and besides it won't even reach. So it's clearly not the right one. And so this one of these goes on the alternator, and I can't remember where the other one goes, but we'll figure it out. I don't think they both go on the alternator, maybe. So, with the drain plug now tightened, the area cleaned, this put back on, I can actually put this cap back in there now, for now. Oh yeah, as I said, we're going to be replacing those two O-rings at the bottom as well. And yeah, I'll get back to you when I figure out my next step. Okay, so now we have the tensioner back on. I just tightened that to 25 Newton meters and then just snugged it a little bit more. And it seems to be quiet now. Not as quiet as the other one. And I've also reconnected the cable. Let me see where my finger is. There, where the bright light is. See where that hex bolt is? That's the cable, small cable. So that means that this one has now been connected here, this one that we're shining the light on, excuse my sniffing. So that one, which goes into the oil filter housing, that one at the back, and that just leaves the one for the alternator and the positive cable for the alternator. That's it. So the alternator will be the next thing to go on. Of course, we're going to have to put the plastic hose on at the bottom, the air intake, and then we can get this put on. We're getting there. Definitely getting there. And then finally we'll fill her up with oil. Okay, now it's time for the alternator to go on. You might want to check this, but mine here, the intake here, was completely full. Still a piece there at the back, look. Completely full of leaves and bits of straw. So check yours, make sure it's clean. I thought maybe taking this off and cleaning it, but one of the bolts didn't want to budge and I didn't want to force it. So I got some compressed air in there and just blew it all out. Yeah, so I'm sure the air going into this would have been quite severely blocked, but now it's better. So let's get it on the car. Okay, we have a fresh new day today. After the Formula 1 I came back and we tackled a bit more, and then it was too hot for me to continue and my back was killing me. Probably because I have the car raised up on axle stands. Not ideal. So, having trouble getting the alternator on at the bottom bolt. I think it's not quite lining up. I've put the inspection camera into the hole and it looks almost lined up, but not quite. So I'm going to give it another go. See, what's happening is the bolt is going in and screwing in, but it's screwing in really tight, and I don't want to be screwing in tight because it's going to damage the threads. So I'm going to give it another go, screw it in a little bit of the way and then try and get a better alignment on it. If that fails, I'm going to undo the top bolt, pull the alternator back. I might even remove it, because that way I can grease the bracket to maybe help it slide in place better, you know. So yeah, I'm gonna have another go at putting the bottom bolt in, and go from there. So I'll keep you posted, because obviously I can't work on the car and film at the same time, and I don't have room to put my tripod, so it is what it is. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I've got this sussed now, so I've taken it off. Remember, long bolt, the longer bolt goes at the bottom on the bracket, and the top bolt goes at the top. So what I've done is I put this bolt into the bracket, and of course the alternator's in a position where I can't get the bolt in. Put that in, turned it all the way, almost to the end, like that. Leave a little gap, and then putting a piece of wood here on this side. I then got a hammer and give it some good taps on this side, and that pushed the sleeve here, what I was talking about earlier. Let me get the bolt out. That pushes this sleeve. Let me just get a torch on that for you. Of course the torch is now out of reach. There it is. So you see the sleeve there, silver there. That pushes back into the alternator, and it makes the bolt come out on the other side. And what that does is it will allow the alternator to go back on the bracket here, no problem. It'll just slide on, and then the bolts just go straight in, job done. But if that's sticking out on this side, like you have a lip here, you could probably, you know, wiggle it onto the bracket, but it'll be easy just to put the bolt in almost all the way, and then just tap it with a hammer, and yeah, until it's nice and flush here, which it is. That's it. If you do have a little bit of a lip, try a little bit of grease on both of these edges here. Just help it slide in. Alright, so now I'm going to put the alternator back in, tighten the bolts, and get to the next stage. Okay, there we go. That was a lot easier once we've got that sleeve out the way. So this is now on. Both bolts are torqued up to 23 Newton meters, which didn't feel like an awful lot. But as I said, what I'm going to be doing in about a week is taking off the intake again and just checking that everything is good, everything's still in place, that there's no extra leaking. I'm going to be looking down into here, making sure there's no oil leaks. So I'm going to have to clean the underside of this cover fully, so I can also make sure that there's no more leaks going down there. Yeah, it'll get inspected after a week. Well, I say a week, it depends how often I use the car. But, you know, after maybe, I don't know, 50 miles or something, 50, 60 miles, maybe 100 miles, I don't know. I'll know when to do it. Okay, so now I'm going to put the tensioner back on, because I took it off there as the wheel was getting in my way of the bottom bolt. So I'm just going to put that back on, and then we're going to put the electrical cable back on. In fact, I think we can do that right now. And then of course we have the positive cable, which I've got back here, which I can now take the tape off, and that can go back on. Make sure you have the battery disconnected, and then we can snug that up with the plastic bolt. Okay, I'm going to tighten that up, get the tensioner back on, and then we'll put this back, and then we'll start putting all the other stuff back on the car. Put the oil filter in, change the seal, put oil in the car, put the cover back on, put the car down, good to go. Fingers crossed, if I've done everything right. I've got all my new line in, awesome. Hopefully the gasket has made a really good seal on this one. I hope so. Yeah. Because I don't fancy taking all this off again, really. But if I do have to take it off again, I'll be doing it with the car on the ground. Which means more bending over. So it's just going to be as bad. Okay, I'm going to get on with that and I'll be back. Alright, I hope I haven't jumped forward too far, but I'm kind of done, except for that bottom cover. So once the alternator was on and we screwed this down with the two 10mm, making sure this cable was in between, slid the fan back in, making sure it was, you know, inside of its plastic bracket at the bottom. You can look under the car to make sure. And then we put the T25 screw back in and the clip in on the other side here. And that was the fan down. Oh, and of course before that the belts. The belts go on. I had it with the name, the brand name, facing the right way, facing, you know, so it reads correctly by looking at it from here. I don't know if I can show you that, because the brand name might not be at the top. Oh, it is. Yeah, you see there? It's readable. It's not backwards or anything. Yeah. So both belts. And if you've taken photographs of how they loop round, it shouldn't be a problem putting them back. Just loop them round as far as you can until there's only the tensioner remains. And then put the 17mm breaker bar onto the pulley, onto the tensioner, pull it back, loop it around the tensioner, and you're done. Same with the bottom one, where it loops over the top two and then goes underneath the bottom one. Well, I say underneath, on top of. Yeah, it goes around the top and then you can maybe see at the bottom. Let me see if I can show you from underneath the car. Just get under here. Alright, so you can see there where the outside belt, that's not the outside belt, the outside belt here goes around this pulley here, that one, and then this one, and then it gets put up and around the tensioner, up and around. Okay, that's from underneath. But you can, there are different configurations as well, because some BMWs have an idler pulley at the top by the alternator. So if yours is different, just look online and you'll find it. It's quite easy. I've cleaned a bit more underneath as well. It's not perfect, but it'll do, and I'll certainly be able to tell if there's any more leakage after this. And I've put my plastic thing on. That just never sits in place. I'm going to see if I can screw that in nicely. It's a Torx as well, which is nice and handy from BMW, not to give us a... I'm going to take it off. It's nice from BMW not to give us a simple Phillips screwdriver. Alright, so that's it. Everything's together. I just need to do the oil filter thing now, so we'll do that. Okay, it turns out it is a Phillips after all. It's just that it looked like a Torx from over there because it was diagonal, you know. So if you haven't got one of these, again, it's worth getting one. They're not expensive. I think this is genuine BMW. Yeah, it is. And in case you want the part number, okay, so it basically just goes on here. You just hang it like that. Okay, make sure it goes in there, and then it'll just close up, and then we can just turn the screw. like one turn. It's not very, because it's plastic. Is that my door closing? Yeah. Because it's plastic, it's, yeah, there's no more turns on that screw. I'm surprised we haven't lost this yet. Maybe put some thread locker on it. A little bit of thread locker. Actually, I might even consider that. Just to stop it from vibrating loose if I can't get it any tighter. Okay, let's move on to the next job. Okay, axle stands are removed. And I've got the jack on there, because that's where the subframe is as well. It does bend that plate in, but what can you do? So I've got the wood on both sides, so that when the car comes down, it's a little bit higher than normal, because I have the, I don't know if I can show it to you from here, but I have the Bilstein I-back suspension on this. Let me see if I can get underneath the car. See, I have this, and this means that the car sits a lot lower than even the M Sport suspension. I think it's about another centimetre lower than M Sport. M Sport is already 15 millimeters lower than standard. This is another 10. And so what happens is, even with this low profile jack, this corner here can't clear the underneath of this bumper. So we're just going to release it onto the wood nice and slow, and now the jack should come out. And then what we'll do is we'll push the car. In fact, the car's level enough now that I could put the oil in. Yeah, the car's level enough. Put the oil in, drive it off the wood, get it outside, and then jack it up at the side again to lift it up and put this inside. Put this underneath, because I don't think I can get under there like this. No. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I could fit under. But I'm not going to try. Alright, so let's get on with the oil filter. Okay, so now we're going to replace these two. And we're going to replace this rubber seal here. We have the replacements that came with the oil filter. And we've got 4 of these, but I only need 2 of them. I've got 2 more for the next time we do an oil change. So I'm going to get the blade. I'm going to need both hands for this, but I'm just going to make, maybe not a cut, I'm going to get it in there and try and just take it off, and do the same with this bottom one. Alright, and then I'm going to replace the rings, and then I'm going to get back to you. Alright, so the new ones are on. Just remember to coat them with oil. I just put a little bit of oil in this is the C3. I just put a little bit of oil in a cap, just coated them. I dropped these 2 into there, and then I coated this bottom ring. What I did was I put this one on first, and then by hand, and then the second one I coaxed it on with the help of my little pick tool thing here. Just got it inside and just stretched it out and round and put it down to there. Again, make sure the stem is oiled, the ring is oiled, and it's all good. Okay, this is ready for the oil filter to go into here. Don't put the oil filter into the oil filter housing, put it in here. Make sure it clicks into place and screw it all down. Let's go do that. Alrighty, let's just remove this. So now we have this, and we're going to introduce that into there, and we're going to make sure it goes in. I think it should click in, right? Yep, there you go. And that's why you do it that way. Now it's clicked in. Now you can put it in. 36mm on the top here, and tightened to 25 Newton meters of torque. Okay, so the final thing we need to do is reset the oil service indicator back to its standard mileage, which will be around 15,000. Mine's currently sitting at around 4,300 or something, so I obviously didn't do it last time. And we're going to do this without any diagnostic tools, even though you could just plug one in and reset it that way. But we're going to do it on the dashboard. So, keys in the ignition, but not turned. We're just going to press and hold, and then we're going to turn the key to position 1. Now we get test. We keep holding. And now we have reset. We press and hold again until reset flashes. And as it's flashing, we press again. Click. And that's it done. 15525. Job is done. Turn the key off. Okay, so we've taken it for a ride. About 7 miles, I think. We're in a car park now. And, well, that one's not leaking. And the one at the back, from what I can tell, is fine. All good. Yeah, it looks okay. Belts are happy. Engine temp is good. Yeah, looks like we're all good to go. So there you go. Alright guys, that ends the video. I hope you got enough information out of it to be able to be confident to do the job yourself. And amazing. Catch you next time. Bye guys.